Good evening, good morning, good time, dear info followers. I hope you are enjoying the summer or the winter time everywhere you are. And we are proud to give you a webinar today regarding the productivity in orthophotos and give you some tips, tricks, workflow exchange based on our experiences to enhance your productivity in your orthophoto production line using info modules. My name is Mohsen Miri, product manager of Info and US Master Portfolio, and I am happy to have Christina and Barbara together in this webinar. Hi, Christina. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you all. Welcome to our webinar.
Hi, Barbara. I would like to thank you as well to join us today.
Hey, Mohsen. Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot, and I'm happy to share some experience.
Great. The good information or let you know is that this webinar will be recorded. It is not required that you take notes or something like that. And we will provide you the recording of the webinar afterwards, maybe next a couple of days. Yeah, actually, I would like to thank you as well for joining us. Usually we thank everybody at the end of the webinar, but I would like to appreciate that you take time and join us together today with the team, and just to emphasize and enhance why should you see or watch this webinar. We are seeing that rapid growth of imagery in the market is happening. We are seeing, observing the enhancements in the productivity in info portfolio, and also the size of projects and the number of images are getting higher. The project managers give us feedback that they are needing and requiring enhancements in performance and also speeding up the production line as well as the quality, which is our strength in info portfolio. You have also the flexibility in info workflows to choose which workflow you can use depending on the projects, the areas you are capturing in your imagery projects, and also which modules you have. What will you listen in this webinar? We would like to share our know-how and information based on the internal exchanges and also the user experiences we have captured in the couple of years and also the weeks and so on, and share the success stories from the users who are working with small projects and also with the very large projects, and shares us their experience and success stories, and that would be great if you know them as well. Furthermore, we will make a comparison between the workflows. It depends on you and in which way you are interested to go, and also in which speed you are interested to employ in your production line. Finally, we will enjoy Barbara with simple tricks and tips to make the production line for you more efficient, and maybe you might know some of them, but there are some secrets or hidden parts for you you're interested to know to enhance your productivity. Which products are going to be mentioned in this webinar? These are more or less the related products affecting the or employing in the orthophoto production. That means Match 3DX for true orthophoto, and dense point cloud generation, and also Match T as well for dense point cloud generation for the classical orthophoto production, as well as Orthomaster for rectifying the images, and Orthovista for generating the final whole mosaics. And finally, we would like to discuss with you, or just sharing there are some bundles available or combination of the modules, you can enjoy the flexibility or the modularity of the info portfolio, and that would be enjoyable for you to feed them to your project. Info is, I think, familiar to many of you as a pioneer software in the photogrammetry and imagery area since 1981. And the task or the possibilities in Info is transforming the worlds of pixels to points and surfaces and pixels finally. I mean the orthophoto products. And I would like to name the modules or products in the Info portfolio as the transformers, because you change the words of the digital information to the other words of digital data. What are these transformers called, or what are the names of these modules? Start with Match AT for aerial triangulation and also the georeferencing and camera calibration and bundle block adjustment. Going further for extracting the point clouds and generating the point clouds, dense point clouds with Match 3DX for true orthophoto applications, and also the mesh generation finally, as well as the Match T, which is also in classical orthophoto generation. If you need enhancements for the quality of the digital elevation models and filtering the point clouds and so on, you can enjoy DT Master and Scop ++. In the next steps, if you are interested to enjoy the automatic workflow of Match 3DX, you can go further with Match 3DX for true orthophoto generation, or you are interested to go after Match T to rectify your images with AutoMaster, AutoVista for final mosaicing. And finally, we have another product which is called US Master for UAV area, which is a complete photogrammetric workflow in one tool, from aerial triangulation, georeferencing, point cloud generation, 3D meshes, and true orthophotos for the UAV market. The advantage of Info products is they are all together one product, seamless, and they can be implemented or employed in projects at once. But you have the possibility to take each module or each product separated. That means these products are seamless together in Info Suite with the best compatibility together. And also you can take each module. It is modular. That means if you have, for example, a software from other market or from other software provider regarding the point cloud generation, but you need a powerful aerial triangulation software, you can enjoy Match AT separated from the Info workflow and make your aerial triangulation there, go further to the other software environment for the other products. Another advantage, or I would say key specification for Info is the flexibility, as I mentioned, the modular environment in Info, and also the scalability. You know, we are always working on performance and speeding up the processing time and the in the whole products. But sometimes you might need to employ more products because you want to meet your deadlines and you want to finish your projects on time or in time. And but you have the machines, the high performance machines or more machines to make your jobs done, and you need scalability. That means you might need to have more products or more licenses to make your jobs finished. AutoMaster, Match T, and Match 3DX are implemented in a tool which is called DP Master for distributed processing. And this is a tool for scalability of your projects and distribute the jobs for the processing, automatic processing parts of the workflow and distributed it in several machines, in servers, and so on. As I mentioned, Match AT is for error triangulation. The classical workflow would be going ahead with Match TDSM and Orthomaster and Orthovista, or for editing the point clouds and elevation models, you can enjoy the DT Master, Scop++. We have also the product Match 3DX, which is an automatic workflow from Match AT directly to Match 3DX, all of them in one product, and finally coming out with 2 orthophotos and the final results automatically. It depends in which area are you interested to work. We will discuss these topics further in this webinar with you. If you are interested to work with the products in city modeling and your projects are very focused on city area, urban area, would be great to use Match 3DX. Or if you are just working in landscape agricultural applications and you are interested to have your projects faster finish, we have the significant performance difference between Match T and Match 3DX. But the results are different depending on which product you are interested in. Inpho is a full photogrammetry solution. I mentioned in the beginning, we changed the words of pixels to point clouds, and in this webinar, we are focusing, or we are interested to talk about changing the pixels to final pixels, the original images to final mosaics. InfoSuite combines the classical orthophoto generation, which is called 2.5D, and also the new one based on the Match 3DX, the 3D workflows, and you can go further for the final products enjoying the semi-global matching algorithm in Match 3DX for orthophoto generation and meshes. A very, very important point for the users who are enjoying the Match 3DX is that you have all functionalities of Match T inside Match 3DX. That means somehow you have a free Match T inside Match 3DX. It depends on you in which workflow you're interested to go ahead in your production pipeline, and how much time you have, and how much detailed or in which level of data for GIS applications, for example, and so on, are you interested to be implemented in your production line. So let's go further to see what are these workflows. For the classical orthophoto generation, you might be familiar with this, which is called the 2.5D workflow. You start with Match AT for error triangulation, going further Match T, point cloud generation, Orthomaster and Orthovista for orthophoto generation and final mosaics. Or if there is some editing required, you can enjoy DT Master. This is the classical orthophoto production. We have also the new or the modern one, which is the 3D workflow, starting as you know with Match AT for error triangulation, and go all the next steps with one product without any editing or any streamline enhancement and editing required with Match 3DX. And it is an automatic, full automatic workflow. If you are really interested to enhance the edges and you would like to change the DTM or digital surface models of the buildings, you can enjoy the integrated workflow of DT Master in the 3D workflow, which is a very communicative and interactive workflow between DT Master and Match 3DX, and it would be really interesting for you. And As I mentioned, it depends on you, which project type you have, what type of overlapping imagery you have, in which area are you working, and how much time you have to finish your projects. As already said, some users are interested to have both workflows. That means they have different types of projects and also different types of deadlines. As already said, the Match T functionality is already existing in Match 3DX. That means you can go ahead with Match AT. If you want to go further with full automatic, you will go Match 3DX and so on. But you can apply the Match T part and go further with Ortho Vista. Or if you have final two orthophotos from different times captured and so on, and you're interested to make a homogeneous true orthophoto from different parts of a project, you can enjoy the strengths of OrthoVista for enhancing the radiometry and the quality of the different orthophotos, true orthophotos, and generate a final homogeneous orthomosaic. And US Master has all in one product for the UAV areas. The focus of this webinar won't be the Match AT or the point cloud generation and so on, but would be all we can learn in this webinar about orthophoto generation, and where we can have some enhancements in OrthoMaster, OrthoVista, Match 3DX, and how would be the bundles and combination of these products. I would like to invite you to read the very interesting success stories we have uploaded in our website. Visit our website or follow us in the social media and enjoy these success stories, because they are the customers and the users like you working with these workflows and compare the workflows and enjoying the differences between the workflows and flexibilities for large projects. For example, this is the Schiphol project in Netherlands. As you can see, a very large project to manage it in classical orthophoto, or if you are interested to combine a UAV project with OrthoVista to enhance the quality of different true orthophotos generated in US Master, you can enjoy the success story. For example, the full frontal mapping in 3D, which was a really interesting combination of US Master and afterward enhancing the homogeneity of the orthophotos, true orthophotos in OrthoVista, and very other nice stories in UAV areas and so on. So I would like to ask Christina to start our first poll to know in which areas or in which applications are you working. I hope you are seeing the poll. The first question, or the poll question, is what are your typical projects you are working, or what are the final applications in your area? I hope you see there are some parts in German, but just mentioning, you have the multiple choice. You can choose several parts of the answers. And for us, it is interesting to know in which areas are you using your orthophotos or true orthophotos. I would give just 5 seconds. Okay, thank you, Christina. Thank you. I would like to ask Christina to let us know about the workflows available in InfoSuite.
Thank you, Mohsen. So within InfoSuite, we have a few available workflows for orthophoto generation. It depends on the available data, available software modules, and of course, what is the most important, on the desired result. Generally, our users can generate true orthophoto and classic orthophoto. As we can see from the diagram, the classic orthophoto workflow is slightly more complex, requires more user interaction and more software modules. Typically, in the classic orthophoto workflow, first we would need to georeference our aerial images, which can be done in Match AT. Later on, we would proceed with the georeferenced images and derive point cloud from them. Afterwards, when we have our terrain model or surface model and our georeferenced images, we can proceed to orthortification in Orthomaster. After we have our orthophotos, we can proceed to Orthovista and mosaic our photos into Orthomosaic. In case of the true orthophoto, all we need are georeferenced images, and later on we can go directly to Match 3DX to generate true orthophotos. The main output of the Match 3DX is highly dense point cloud generated with the semi-global matching algorithm, the true orthophoto, which will be tiled according to the user definition, and optionally you can generate textured 3D mesh. Here you can see the true orthophoto generated by Match 3DX. The workflow in Match 3DX is fully automated and requires bare minimum of user interaction. I want to mention that this data was kindly provided by the City of Munich to us. As I said, you can optionally generate a mesh in Match 3DX. Our meshes have realistic feel because we provide as well the textures for the meshes. The meshes can be used in 3D city modeling for GIS systems, services companies, and as well for simulation gaming applications. 3D textured meshes combine the image-based data in one data type, 3D structure information generated from point cloud, and as well the texture that we derive from the aerial images. So as I said before, there are two workflows. One workflow is for true orthophoto generation, and the other one is for classical orthophoto generation. Basically, if you have very high overlap, or let's say multi-hat systems, or you have highly urbanized area like the one presented in the previous slide, let's say like the city of Munich, with lots of buildings, lots of structures like bridges, then we would highly recommend generating true orthophoto. If you have areas that are rather rural and you do not have many buildings, we would recommend classical orthophoto. This workflow can as well be faster than the true orthophoto workflow. In these images and in this animation, this slide, you can see the difference between the true orthophoto and classic orthophoto. What can happen in classic orthophoto is that you can notice this leaning effect when it comes to buildings and structures. So you can see the facades of the buildings. If you produce true orthophoto, you will not see the facades. You will see the strictly nadir images and only the roof. Let's revise one more time the classic orthophoto workflow. So as I said before, first you would need to georeference your aerial images. For this, you would typically use the Match AT software, which is a software for aerial triangulation, bundle block adjustment, and if necessary, you can as well calibrate your camera. Afterwards, you would go to Match T and derive the point cloud from your aerial images. You can derive a surface model, or you can derive a terrain model. It is worth mentioning that the whole functionality of Match T is included in Match 3DX as well. After deriving surface model or terrain model, you can proceed to optionally DT Master and DTM Toolkit. In case of the surface model, you would need to filter ground points from surface points in DTM Toolkit. Afterwards, when you have your terrain model, a surface model, you can do quality assessment, quality control in DT Master. You can edit your point cloud if necessary and review the result. When you have your terrain model and you have your aerial images, you can go to Orthomaster and orthortify your images. After orthortification, you will get the orthophotos, which you can automatically mosaic in Orthovista. The inline generation is fully automatic. And afterwards, if necessary, you can do radiometric corrections and color balancing. We have a rich variety of automatic and semi-automatic tools for this in Orthovista. I would like to share the results for classic orthophoto generation here. So I opened the Orthovista. I mosaiced my classic orthophotos into the mosaic. So you can see that the area is highly urbanized. There are lots of tall buildings. The streets are extremely narrow. So for automatic seam line generation, this is a very challenging situation. But as we can see, Orthovista does a really good job here. The seam lines do not cross the buildings, and they are nicely located along the roads. I want to mention that the seam lines were generated fully automatically, and I did not manually edit any of the results. So to generate this seam line, I used the following parameters. In the mosaic adjustment, I chose the algorithm called feature detection, and I modified the parameters of this algorithm slightly. Here I chose urban, and then I modified the parameters for this area type. So I chose user-defined, and I modified the parameter edge detection weight. I decreased the weight of the edge detection to 102. The reason why I did this is because we have lots of buildings, and the buildings create shadows on the road. The algorithm can recognize those shadows as building edges, which is not completely correct. We can avoid this by decreasing the weight for edge detection. Of course, there can be always problems in your mosaic, like for example in this area. You can see that the seam line cuts the building, and you can see that the roof is slightly displaced, but there is no reason to worry about it because you can go to Seam Applicator and fix this error. So if I load this project into Seam Editor and I zoom in to the area where I have this problem, I can just modify the seam line. So I will create a new seam line. I will try to place my seam line along the road so it does not cross any building. I'll just start drawing my seam line here. Apply. Here I have a little island, but it's not a problem. I can quickly get rid of it. This. So now the situation is corrected, and the content of just one orthophoto covers these buildings. When I'm finished here and when I polish my results, I can also review the tiles which were modified. It comes really in handy because when I'm reviewing my results in Seam Editor, I can see which tiles were edited and which tiles were not edited. So later on, if I, let's say, want to continue my work tomorrow, I know which tiles have been already reviewed. After reviewing all the tiles and fixing all the seam lines, I can save the result in Seam Editor and load this project in Orthovista. Later on, what I would need to do is to choose here Seam Applicator and process the result again. It is worth mentioning that I would need to leave on the global tilting adjustment on even when I'm applying just Seam Applicator with my correct seam lengths. It is very important because if in the previous run I had the global tilting adjustment on, it has to be on again, otherwise the calculated radiometric corrections will not be used again. So this is all from my side. Thank you. And I would like to give the word to my colleague, Barbara. And
Kristina, I would like to ask you to start a second poll to know which workflows are the users using.
yeah, sure.
Before you go ahead with Barbara. Thank you.
So I would invite you to take a part in our poll. Okay, so almost half of you voted already.
There might be the question, for example, Kristina, from some users, okay, we have Match 3DX, we have Match T, which workflow are interested? As you mentioned, it is dependent on the project type in the first poll we mentioned, city modeling and so on, overlapping you mentioned, and depends on the users how fast the orthophoto production should be, and we can emphasize the significant speed difference between the classical orthophoto generation for not city areas or just agriculture areas and with low overlaps, but also the advantage of the Mesh 3DX for urban planning and city modeling and so on. And that's really great for us to know which orthophoto production pipeline you have in your projects.
Okay, thank you, Marcin. So we have the results of the poll, and
As introduced, my name is Barbara, and I'm very happy to share some selected key features today, as well as some tips and tricks for your orthophoto production using the Orthobox, which are the Orthomaster and the Orthovista module. Of course, there is much more available regarding the key features, but I selected only a few of those for today due to the limited time. Coming to the first key feature being in Orthovista, we have a very powerful routine to compensate automatically for the radiometric differences that you have block-wide. So you can see here in this example on the left-hand side how there are differences in the radiometry regarding the input images. The routine to automatically compensate for these differences is the so-called global tilting. And here the input images are being analyzed and are being compared to compute an overall homogeneous result using with the global tilting a linear correction approach. At the end, it is up to the user to define if Orthovista is allowed to unlimitedly correct the radiometric differences, or if there is the need to define limitations to exclude, for example, the influence of very bright sun reflections or clouds in one or the other image. Now here in my example, you can see that the differences are very obvious and very visible in the input images being on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, they have been corrected fully automatically, and the same thing here without any user interaction. Looking at the second key feature that I would like to share with you is the Radiometrics editor. And this is also another very powerful but more interactive or semi-automatic tool. The Radiometrics editor is designed to quickly enhance the radiometry for the processing, but also for the visualization. And it kind of intuitively allows to do modifications, not only for smaller blocks, but also it includes tools where you are able to handle huge blocks within a very, very short time frame. In general, it is not available only in Orthovista for the orthophotos, but you can also find it in the applications master, where you can define changes for your aerial images, satellite images, or whatever kind of images that you are using. And now, to give you a better impression on how this works, I would like to show you some tools using this data set here in a short demonstration. So let's switch here to the Orthovista interface. And what I have already done is now that I have loaded some images here, you can nicely or quite obviously see that there are differences from the upper 3 strips compared to the lower 2 strips. And in this example, they were due to flights taking place at different days. So to help Orthovista a little bit later for the automatic processing, which will follow afterwards, and once more being the global tilting, I'm now modifying here the images a little bit. And to do that, I now select a few of those images here, the 3 strips being displayed here in the northern part. And what I'm selecting is here now the manual gradation correction. And now I'm just simply moving here the gradation curve a little bit to modify the block and the radiometry of the selected images. Now the first images are corrected, and now I take a look at the remaining images. Here in this case now I would like to brighten those a little bit. So once more I'm using here the gradation curve, and I'm unselecting the images once more. Now already a little bit kind of a fine-tuning would be that I could select once more here the strips in the northern area. So you see only the most northern strip is selected, but as the images appear a little bit more bluish compared to the remaining ones, I'm now selecting the blue channel only, and I'm now removing a little bit the blue color from these images. So you can see that already with a few clicks, I was able to modify the overall appearance of the block. And now to take a look now in this example at another option, I'm now using here the color setting, and to be able to define, sorry, my images a little bit in a better way. I'm now zooming in here. I make sure I have all images selected. And in this dialog, you can see that each image is being represented with a dot. And already in this appearance, I can see that there are no outliers radiometrically. So now to modify the appearance a little bit, what I do is I'm modifying it a little bit, and to make it in such a way that the representation looks very nice. Having done that, I would then close my Radiometrics editor. The changes that I did will be stored in the so-called RDX files, which are additional files that come with the images along. And that means, in other words, that the original images are being untouched. And now the next step in this process would be that I now continue in OrthoVista. I would then use the global tilting to let OrthoVista do the remaining radiometric corrections. If required, seam line generation would follow, or seam line editing, or whatever setting would be required. The two data sets that I have showed so far are also available as sample data, and I would like to invite you to download those and of course to test it on your own and to see what settings work in your case, not only for the sample data, but of course also for any data sets that you have on your own. Now, I have also collected a few tips and tricks using the Orthobox modules, and I really hope that they will simplify the workflow even further for you. So yeah, let's take a look. The first one that I want to share is a functionality being available in the applications master that you might not be aware of. You have there the option to enhance the imagery radiometrically already prior to the orthophoto process. So OrthoVista can then do, once again, the fine-tuning only. The functionality that I'm referring to here is located in the image commander interface, and it allows you to compute vignetting values as a single image correction, as well as computing a tilting as image group correction. And the tilting correction will be computed based on the tie points. So this would be a setting that you can typically use after the aerial triangulation, where you already have the tie points in your project. One of the great things is that the result of these corrections is once more not being introduced directly into the images, so they are still the original ones, but they are stored in the RDX files, and you can visualize those different corrections using the image viewer. So you can see here if individual images are being loaded, you could select which kind of status you would like to visualize, and then you can directly see what kind of changes have taken place. And of course, what you can do is that you can then include these corrections already during the orthophoto generation into the orthomosaic and into the orthophotos. Another tip that I would like to share with you is quite an important thing to know, and it is regarding the height model formats that we are supporting in the OrthoMaster module. The different formats in the height model that we have, they vary in the processing speed as well as in the quality, and we therefore strongly recommend to use Inpho's Scop Ttm format. And as it's based on its hybrid structure, that means that we have raster points, spot points, form lines, break lines, and so on. And based on that hybrid structure, we are able to deliver highest quality of the height model, but also, of course, then for the orthophoto. TIN or other raster formats are also supported, but in general, they are slower in the processing speed, and also they have limitations, for example, regarding the true ortho computation, where these kind of formats could not be used. How to generate a Scop Ttm? Well, there are different ways to do that. For OrthoMaster, typically the DTM toolkit is being used, where the point and vector data will be loaded, and then the interpolation of the Scop Ttm model will be started so that you can then later on use it in OrthoMaster. You do not require any additional license for this in case you have OrthoMaster license, but yeah, also other licenses are supported here as well. Another tip in OrthoMaster is regarding the generation of the so-called ortho areas, and these areas, they define the actually processed image extent. So we have the full image extent, but we can process the orthophotos based on the ortho areas only. Means that we can minimize the storage, we can have a faster processing speed, and so on. However, to have an equal end lab and side lab, I would recommend to use a specific parameter in the ortho area computation, because having an even or an equal end lab side lab situation, it would work better for the global tilting as well as for seamline generation or for the editing. So you can see that normally by default, the ortho area computation has a non-equal end lab and side lab. However, if you would choose the minimum overlap in terrain units, then we can compute the overlap in end lab and side lab in an equal way. Of course, if the original image overlap allows for that. So another tip from my collection is now for OrthoVista and is regarding the background checking of images. Here, for the background checking, OrthoVista defines which pixels include valid image content or which colors should be ignored for the processing. So, like in this example, you can see that we have here white pixels in the background that should not be treated as valid image content, as otherwise these pixels would be introduced into the global tilting, they would be introduced into the seamline computation, the mosaicing, and this would lead to an erroneous mosaic, and therefore would lead to the fact that you would have to start the process from the very beginning on. And a very small but nice help would be that you can change simply the color of your display of your main window, and I would recommend to just pick any bright color that you like. because with such a bright color, it's much easier to spot if you have defined your background checking in a correct way, or if you have a wrong setting, meaning that an erroneous mosaic would be computed. So like in this case, you see white pixels are still visible. I would then have the white pixels in my mosaic, so this is the wrong setting. However, with a bright yellow color, I can see that my white pixels are now being transparent, and I can expect now a nicely looking mosaic at the end. This trick that I'm listing right now here might be rather an idea being worth to think about as a trick. For Orthovista and the processing time, you have to keep in mind that quite a major part of the processing speed in Orthovista is being spent computing the seam lines. However, in urban areas, it's very essential to create high quality seam lines and to minimize any editing that could be required. So what typically is being chosen is the urban setting. And by choosing the urban setting, the algorithm is very sensitive and it will deliver quite a detailed seam line. But of course, higher quality, typically a longer processing time is required. So an idea is to, as well as alternative, is to use a mixed algorithm. However, there the seam line is less detailed. Of course, it's faster regarding the processing time, but you could expect most probably more errors that are being caused in the seam line. So what will improve the quality is that in addition, you could load so-called building outlines into your Orthovista project, and then these building outlines are being used as exclusion areas for the seam line, and the seam line will then try to avoid those areas and by that improve the quality while using a mixed setting and therefore still having a faster computation time. So as I said, maybe that's worth a thought to have a good performance. Now, coming to my last tip for today, I want to share the settings for multi-channel handling in Orthovista with you, whereas having multi-channel imagery is not really different compared to any other data set. In general, Orthovista uses all channels for the processing. So already in the Radiometrically editor or in the global tilting, all channels are being included and the result is computed only once. And only at the very end, you have the option then to generate the output, and you can define what kind of output sets should be generated. Orthovista supports it in such a way that you can write a, for example, default mosaic output, here in my example now for a 4-channel imagery, but at the same time, I could generate now an RGB set of mosaic tiles or a CIR set of mosaic tiles, and save therefore a lot of processing time. Because keep in mind, seam editing, global tilting, all the other steps that are being done in beforehand have to be carried out only once. So another idea is that you just export your 4-channel mosaic and that only the 4-channel mosaic is being stored. But on request, you could load then your 4-channel mosaic and just cut out whatever is needed. For example, a specific area only with RGB or maybe another area with CIR setting only. And based on that very convenient setting that you have here, you can easily generate whatever output you like. We have now reached the end of our today's webinar, and I thank you very much for taking the time. I hope that there was some valuable information in for you, and I am now happy to hand over to my colleague Mohsen once more. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Christina, for this nice overview or tips and tricks on the existing products in InfoSuite. I think it is a very short time, but I hope we could cover a spectrum of the beginners or the users who are interested to get into the info software, or also for the professionals. I think everybody could find something in this webinar which would be suitable or fitable for the production line. That's great. And in the next couple of minutes that we have, we are really happy to answer your questions. Please use the chat part or platform of the webinar, and you can ask your questions there, and we can answer the questions. But I would like to answer the first question that came up, and afterwards I would be thankful, Christina, if you share us the questions in the chat session, and we try to answer the questions. And if there are open questions afterward, we will try to get back to you after webinar and answer your questions via email and so on. So the first question is, what is Orthobox? Interesting is for you, as I mentioned, there are bundles and combination of the modules you have, and you can use or combine different modules. You know, it is for us very important to know why Orthovista is so accepted in the market, and it is so a favorite product inside the market, even in the areas where the users are using another aerial photogrammetry solution or imagery solution, but still are interested in Orthovista. So you can purchase or have the Orthovista as a standalone separated product, as a module, or you can combine it with Orthomaster. You have the aerial triangulation from another software and you are interested to have the images rectified. You can enjoy the bundle of Orthomaster and Orthovista, which is called Orthobox, and it is for you beneficial regarding the cost, and it is advantageous for you for the production pipelines. And the second question, I would say it is somehow also connected to the first question, is the combination of the other products. Yes, US Master can be used for UAV areas, and afterwards you can enhance the quality of the two orthophotos in Orthovista as a standalone after the two orthophotos generated in US Master. But let me go to the next question as well, which is also related to the productivity regarding the distributed processing possibilities in InfoSuite. You know, we have a tool for distributing the processes, which is called DP Master, Distributed Processing Master, and this tool is applicable for Orthomaster, Match 3dsm, and also Match 3dx. So the users would like to have more licenses or more, for example, Orthomaster or Match 3 licenses to separate the jobs in different machines and run the automatic processing. For Orthomaster and Match 3dsm, there are reduced price licenses or combined licenses, which is called DPL or DP distributed processing licenses, and you can add these beneficial or favorite licenses after you have a full license. For Match 3dx, you can use also the distributed processing to run several Match 3dx in different machines and run the automatic processing, or it depends which product you are interested. But for Match 3dx, so far you have to purchase full license price. and it is the advantage of scalability in info suite, and would be really interesting for you, I think, in this regard. Just ask us the questions, or contact your distributed partner or regional sales managers in every area to find out which combination, which bundles are available, and enjoy the benefits of the costs as well. Yeah, and I would catch another question. Yes, it is in. There are many things we can share with you, and you're interested in training, which is right now very challenging regarding the critical time we are experiencing, and on-site training would be very critical. We are working on our online training possibilities, and we will inform you in the next weeks, a couple of weeks, about the availability of the online trainings, and make another promotion for you where you can find the possibilities in online trainings with or without an instructor, and so on, and go further with the trainings. As well, as I understand, imagery projects are really complicated, and we try to make everything automatic and so on, but it is always suitable to have a hand with you. So Christina, I would be thankful if you pass the other questions.
Yes, sure. There is one question, very common one. What are recommended overlap side lab for input imagery for matched 3DX through orthophoto processing?
I can answer this question. As mentioned, it depends on which type of platform are you using. If it is a multi-head imagery or a single head imagery, we recommend to have an end lab, or in the direction of the flight, I mean, with 80% for Match 3DX. But depend on the area you're capturing, we recommend start with 30% if it is a flat area, it is a rural area or agricultural application, and you're still interested to have true orthophoto generation, go ahead with 80-30% of the overlaps. And if you are going to work in city modeling area and this production line, we recommend to have high overlaps both in end lab and side lab. 80-80 is our recommendation for city modeling. As mentioned, it depends on which project type you have.
The next question is, are Match 3DX and Match TDSM separate modules? Can I buy just a Match TDSM module?
I would answer this question. Yes, you can purchase also the Match TDSM separately as well. If you have the Match 3DX, the Match TDSM is inside Match 3DX. They are separated, but Match 3DX is a package somehow. You have the semi-global matching algorithm, and I would say free of charge inside Match 3DX, the Match TDSM inside. And you can enjoy it, but the answer is yes, you can buy separated Match T for classical orthophoto generation or production line, and Match 3DX for the true orthophoto generation.
For true orthos, is 80% forward and 60% side overlap required?
It is recommended, it is the minimum part if you are working in city areas where you have buildings. I would say, for example, the Munich project we had, it's an example for that. Somehow in this area, you don't see in cities like Munich, the skyscrapers and large building or high buildings. You can go ahead with 80-60. But if you have very large buildings and you have, for example, multi-head projects, because you have to take care of the occlusion and also the occluded areas. You have to have the side overlap or side view in the images, and that could be covered in 80%. And we are experiencing some projects that are going further for imagery, high resolution, and high overlap. Even in 90%, you can go up, but depends how much time you have and what you want to reach, and which product. Yes, the answer is from 80/30 to 80/80 and up. It is possible to use Match Ready X.
We have here one question about Match AT, but I think we can still answer it. Is there a maximum limit of imagery loaded into Match AT?
We don't set any limit in the aerial triangulation actually, but we would like to encourage our customers not to manage the large projects in one run. We tested our project, for example, with 50,000 images, around 50,000 images. I mean 5,000, and this is large projects, and it works in one run. But we recommend to separate the projects. You can try it, you can test it, and if you're challenged, you just inform us, and we will help you if you're interested to run the project at once. But we are also interested to know what type of machines are you using, because it doesn't make sense to run Match AT in a very low performance machine, and then at that time you might be disappointed, because you might think, okay, the problems might come from Match AT, but that might not be the reason.
We have more questions here. So one of them is, what happens in Orthovista when an image contains white pixels within the image and not just outside of the image? So this is concerning the background.
Yeah. Well, in Orthovista, there are also settings where you can somehow work around that a little bit. I would like to remind you that specifically when using OrthoMaster and Orthovista in combination, the two modules go hand in hand, and such a situation will not appear. In Orthovista itself, you can then modify the settings so that the imagery is still being produced in a correct mosaic, but as both areas need to be set transparent, computation times typically are longer, because you have to imagine that small tiny islands are being generated within the image, and then need to be a seam line need to be generated, a blending need to be performed, and all these additional tasks need to be performed. So the answer is, it is possible, but it's not the best suggested workflow. And again, if you're using OrthoMaster, such a situation will not appear.
Okay. So one more question. We often import publicly available LiDAR data into Orthomaster for the project DTM. Rather than using Match-T, we often run into an issue with bridges that have been removed from the LiDAR points. This creates distortions in the ortho bridge area, and it tips on how to best handle this issue.
Maybe this is a question that we can also rather answer offline, because yeah, it might be too detailed. We are also over the time, so
I think it depends also, as we are talking about a LiDAR, and also the, as you mentioned in the webinar, Barbara, the type of filtering as well, which type of elevation models can be used, and Scop plus filtering, and go ahead in the next steps. And I think that would be a very detailed answer required. I would recommend to answer this question in as an email, because it would be very deep and into the details.
Yeah, I agree. So we definitely will get back to you and let you know there more details.
Great. I would recommend Christina, just one last question, because we are running out of time. And okay.
I would say that other questions are rather going into details, and it would be better to answer in a personal email.
Okay.
They would require a longer answer.
Great. Okay, awesome. The other questions you have, where can I find the training information and support, as you can see in this slide, and where can I purchase a product, who should I contact, just visit the website, our website, Info and US Master, or participate in our webinars, and we try to help you go ahead and support you in your production line. So I would like to thank you, Barbara, thank you, Christina, for very nice and somehow detailed also the information in this webinar, and we would be happy to hear from you. Everybody, hope you enjoyed this webinar. And I would say goodbye and see you next time.